We talked about dicamba earlier in the show, but since a lot of people kind of got spooked out of using dicamba after last year, many turned to Liberty. But here's the thing, if you're spraying Liberty for the first time, or maybe the second or third time, we want to make sure that you're spraying it correctly, getting the best possible performance out of that. That's what we want to talk about today.
Well, Liberty is certainly different chemistry when we think about a contact killer that's going to control above ground vegetation, not get down into that root system. We need great coverage across as many leaves as we can on those plants to take them out. So we want smaller droplets, larger volume of water, higher volumes of spray pressure than we use with most other herbicides that we're putting out there. So think about it more along the lines of what we do with fungicide use. That's kind of the way we want to apply Liberty. We'd like 15 to 20 gallons of water, a good amount of pressure so we get a small to medium droplet out there. We still worry about if we've got tiny, tiny little fines that could blow away. We don't need that to happen, but we really don't have much for a drift concern with Liberty. It's not a volatile product, and for as many millions of acres as have been sprayed, I don't know that I've walked a drift complaint yet with Liberty. So it's been a good herbicide. We just got to have great coverage to get good weed control.
Unfortunately, there are still many people out there who think Liberty does not give great weed control. Well, I remember when Liberty first came out, and a lot of people were talking about using 16 ounces, 22 ounces, I mean, very, very low rates. Well, today we talk a lot about using at least 32 ounces, if not even 36 or 43 ounces, depending on the application. So number one, the rate is the most important thing. You've got to have a good, strong rate. The other thing is just make sure you're using the right adjuvants. So using ammonium sulfate absolutely helps. If you leave the ammonium sulfate out, expect to get a little bit worse performance. Just like we said earlier in the show with dicamba, we do want really good growing conditions as well. If it's sunny out, if the temperature is 83 degrees and last night it was 65, if you have good moisture in the soil, if you have decent humidity, all these conditions that would lead to better growth of the weed, you usually get better kill with Liberty.
Many farmers who have switched over to using Liberty are used to what they saw with Roundup and can remember back 10 years ago, 20 years ago, what Roundup was doing and how it would take out great big weeds. Liberty is never going to be that product. We like 2 to maybe 6 inch tall weeds depending on the weed species. So we really want to time that Liberty application. Some farmers that have been really successful using the program will say, well, I put my pre-emerge herbicides out, I plant my soybeans, and then I just plan on 21 to 28 days coming back and spraying. That's a pretty good way to start, and then you can adjust as you go. If you see weeds popping up shortly after you've gotten done planting and your residual let a few escapes go, you may have to be a little bit on the closer to 21-day side. And if you had great control out of your pre's and you're just starting to see, a couple inch tall weeds popping 28 days out, well, hey, you've hit your window just right. But don't wait too long with Liberty, because once you get past that and you've got great big weeds, if Liberty doesn't bring them down, you don't have much for helpers to pull those great big weeds down.
Darren just said don't wait too long, but many people ask, well, how long can I wait? How late can I spray Liberty? Obviously, it depends on the crop that you're producing, but with dicamba, you have to stop spraying by R1 or earlier, depending on your state and the label in your state. But with Liberty, you can spray to R2 in soybeans. So, in other words, at R3, at first pod, you can't legally spray Liberty anymore. So don't be thinking, oh, I can go spray all through August or anything like that. I just don't see that. In our area, we always hit R3 in soybeans before the 1st of August. So usually I suggest guys wrap up their Liberty spraying around mid-July.
Brian mentioned ammonium sulfate already, and I think that's really important to put that in there to improve spray performance, but you really don't need to add surfactants or oils. Liberty has a really hot surfactant package in it already. So keep that in mind when you're adding tank mix partners, that Liberty does heat up tank mix partners a little bit. So talk with your agronomist depending on which mix you're considering.
One last thing I would make mention of is Liberty has no residual. So you've got to make sure you have good residual herbicide programs out there, both in advance and sometimes even with the Liberty or right after the Liberty, to extend residual, because a weed that comes up tomorrow is not going to die from a Liberty application today.
Liberty certainly is a great tool to have in your herbicide tool belt. And keep in mind, there are no resistant weeds to Liberty at this point. So we want to manage this technology well using a pre-emerge herbicide, spraying timely with appropriate rates and the appropriate nozzles. One of the weeds you may be targeting with Liberty is our weed of the week. We'll show you how to stop it coming up next.